Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater. Today is the 27th of August, 2018, and man, a lot's going on in Hollywood. We're coming into the fall season. We're going to be seeing a lot more horror movies coming out, and after movies like the Happy Time Murders basically crashed and burned over the weekend, which is sad. I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit sad that the Happy Time Murders did as poorly as it did. This is mostly due to the fact that I feel that the movie had a good premise, had a great idea behind it, but ultimately, unfortunately, I think Melissa McCarthy being attached to it was one of the things that killed it. Now, Melissa McCarthy being attached to it was probably what got it the financing to get made in the first place, but this is one of those times when you have to realize that Melissa McCarthy's time as being a leading lady may not be happening outside of being in a Paul Feig movie. And you know, I mean, hey, give me Spy 2, give me The Heat 2, Give me Bridesmaids 2. Do not touch Ghostbusters. Leave that shit alone. It's dead. It's dead. It's dead. It's dead. It's fucking dead. Let it die. It's dead. But the other stuff, Subversive, it can work out okay. But in the meantime, we got a lot to get through today. And obviously, as you can see here from the thumbnail of today's show, it's Oscar Isaac, Poe Dameron, and Danny Boyle. We're gonna be talking about those sorts of things. But first things first. There was a story a while back. There was a story a while back about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson starring in a remake of Big Trouble in Little China, and people were not happy about that. By the way, people were not happy about that at all. They thought that it was shit. They thought that it was crap. They didn't like it. You don't fuck with Carpenter. You don't fuck with Big Trouble. Big Trouble, in my opinion, is the best collaboration between Kurt Russell and John Carpenter, and and it ties very closely with The Thing. I just feel, I just feel it's better than The Thing, and and I love The Thing, and I love Escape from New York and Escape from LA, even though LA is kind of a bad movie. But Big Trouble for me is like, I remember the first time I saw Big Trouble in Little China. It's always been this iconic movie in my mind. It's a great film. But now we're finding out here that it's actually going to be a continuation of the series and not a remake, which is giving me a little bit of hope here. A little bit of hope. Now, the article here says that when it was first announced back in 2015, because it's been 3 years since it was announced, that Dwayne Johnson was coming on to produce and star in a remake of Big Trouble in Little China, fans were a bit nervous. No, fans were not a bit nervous here. Okay, Collider. Fans were not a bit nervous. Fans were fucking upset. They were upset because we don't want remakes anymore. Remakes are bad. People don't want remakes. Now, continuations, that's a different story altogether. So they had to figure out a way to do it. Now, director John Carpenter's 1986 original is iconic, and Kurt Russell is pretty much the one and only Jack Burton, which is true. Carpenter's film is a tonal tightrope walk, introducing Jack as the hero in a story filled with action and mysticism, but really allowing Russell and the characters to fumble about as the story gets weirder and weirder. Jack can handle himself, but he always seems to be one or two steps behind, which makes the story more interesting to watch. I would always argue that Jack Burton is not actually the main character of Big Trouble in Little China. I don't think he's the main character. I think it's his best friend. I think his best friend's the main character. And I think Jack is presented as the main character, but he's ultimately the sidekick. Because he's always kind of fumbling his way through it, where we are rooting for his friend, I forget his name right now, to get back his girlfriend, the girl with the green eyes from Lopan, right? That's the journey, right? That's the journey that we're going on, and he's just there with it. He's along with the ride. So I've always looked at Kurt Russell as not being the star of the movie, at least outside of the title card. Now, it says here, it's been a spell since we've heard anything about the remake, which is understandable when you're dealing with somebody as busy as Dwayne Johnson. Now, the person who wrote this article spoke with Hiram Garcia, president of production at 7 Bucks Productions, and one of the producers on the film, and he was curious about the status. And so it turns out that Garcia revealed that the plan is now not to remake Carpenter's film, but to create a continuation story, saying here, there's a lot of things going on with Big Trouble in Little China. We are in the process of developing that, and let me tell you, the idea is not actually to remake Big Trouble in Little China. You can't remake a classic like that. So what we're planning to do is we're going to continue the story. We're going to continue the universe of Big Trouble in Little China. Everything that happened in the original exists and is standalone, and I think there's one person who could ever play Jack Burton, so Dwayne would never try to play that character. So we're just having a lot of fun. We're actually in a really great space with the story that we've cracked. But yeah, no remake. It's a continuation. We are deep into development on that as well, and I think you're going to start hearing about that pretty soon. Now, Here's a reason why I think this is happening. Okay, I think this is happening because, and this is my theory, Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. Now, that was not a remake of Jumanji. It was a reboot of it, kind of. It was also kind of a semi-sequel. And as a result of that, the movie went on to gross over $960 million worldwide, making it nearly $1 billion movie that rivaled The Last Jedi when it came out. And even people look back on it now and go, I would argue that in many cases it probably was a bit better. For that to be the case. Now, that's where I see us in this particular space here is that Dwayne Johnson, his production company, they realize that a reboot is not something people want. A remake is not something people want. If he were to sit there and take on the role, because I do think that The Rock is egotistical enough to want to take on the role of Jack Burton, right? I do think that's the case. But ultimately, I'm glad that they're not. I'm glad that he's not going to go down that path and that they're going to continue the story. Now, is Lopan going to be a thing? Is he going to come back? Is it going to be reincarnation? How are they going to handle it? I mean, Egg Foo, the actor who played him, has passed away. James Hong, who played Lopan, is in his 70s now. You know, I mean, he might come back on to do something. He could literally play the character he was when he was in the wheelchair in the movie. Kurt Russell's getting up there in years. I mean, Kim Cattrall's getting up there in years. But I'm pretty sure if they do it the right way, they could find a way to make it work. And if they're excited about the story that they've cracked, then I definitely want to see what they're going to be working on. But that being said, man, I'm glad it's a continuation and not a remake, because I don't think I would go see a remake. I mean, who am I kidding? I probably would go see it out of sheer just putrid, morbid curiosity, but I wouldn't like any minute of it unless it was good, and then I would tell you. But in the meantime, I definitely think that this is going to be a good movie to check out, because I think if they're on the right track for continuing the story, and if Carpenter's involved, I just want to make that abundantly clear. Like the Halloween new one coming out in a couple months, you know, Carpenter was involved, and Carpenter was you know, he definitely was giving his input. And if that can happen here, then I'm okay with that. But if anything, if The Rock was going to remake anything, to me it would be like They Live. I think They Live would be prime for that. But then again, with Roddy Piper having passed away, I don't want to see that happen either, because that movie's classic in its own right. Let's just be fair. John Carpenter is a goddamn American treasure, and we need more of his 80s goodness. His 80s goodness, not remakes, not reboots, not requels, not whatever, but pure goddamn John Carpenter. But in the meantime, like I said, this has my attention. I will definitely be paying attention, and then of course I'll tell you guys about it. But Disney. I want to talk about Disney for a second here, because this is we finally got confirmation, folks. We finally now know what Disney's Netflix killer is going to be called, and I'm not going to lie, I'm not a big fan of the name. I think it's kind of stupid. I think it's kind of dumb. Now it says here, Disney streaming service gets an official name, will officially cost less than Netflix. Now, right now, I'm paying $14 a month for Netflix because I want the 4K UHD HDR, whatever the hell it is, package that they offer. I want to see these things that were shot in 4K, projected in 4K on my 4K TV. I mean, like, whatever, right? But Disney realizes that it's got to come into a very crowded marketplace, and it's got to kick some serious ass. But at the same time, Disney is Disney. And I think Disney would coming in just on its own with what it currently has would be enough to rival Netflix in many, many, many instances. Now, it goes on to say here that ever since Netflix changed the game by offering loads of streaming content in the form of movies and TV shows, both syndicated and original, everyone else has been rushing to catch up. The result is a barrage of subscription streaming services that fans get to pick and choose from. Soon, Disney will be joining the game in 2019 with their own branded streaming service. And basically what it says here from Variety is that they put together a big profile on how studios and other media companies are trying to catch up with Netflix. But the article has some new information on Disney's service, which Bob Iger calls the biggest priority of the company during calendar year 2019. Now, think about that for a second, right? Think about that. The biggest priority of the company is this streaming service. It's not Avengers 4. It's not Star Wars Episode 9. It's not whatever, you know, fucking Aladdin or Dumbo. I mean, it wouldn't be either of those anyway. But, I mean, then again, Beauty and the Beast cleared $1 billion, so it may be. So their biggest priority for this company is getting this thing off the ground. And the reason why is because of the money. The money for it's going to be big. Now, it says here that the service will apparently be called Disney Play. It was originally kind of referred to as Disney Direct, and I feel Disney Direct is a better name overall. I just do. I just feel Disney Play sounds kind of like just like, did you get Disney Play? Is this what's happening? Did you get Disney Play for your kids? What is Disney Play? Oh, it's the streaming service. That sounds so stupid. It sounds like a toy. It does. Sounds like a freaking toy. But if it was like Disney Direct, you kind of understand. Has a more ring to it, I think. A better ring. Oh, did you get Disney Direct? It sounds more official. It sounds more, it sounds better in my mind, is all I'm trying to say here. Now, Iger referred to the service, but they could change the title before then. Again, we heard Disney Direct a few weeks ago. Now they're saying Disney Play. Maybe they're beta testing certain names. My money's on Disney Direct. But it says here that Disney won't immediately try to keep up with the volume of content that Netflix is currently churning out. Iger did tell analysts that we're going to walk before we can run as it relates to volume of content. Okay, but the thing with that though is you've got like all of Disney's fucking content. Like Disney like legitimately acting like they just don't have a half century worth of content? I mean, Darby O'Gill and the Little People exist. Song of the South exists, although that will not be included. That will guaranteed not be a thing. But no, ultimately that's where we're at right now. Is there's they've got it. Anyway, this is what they're working on. They've got projects that include the Star Wars TV show, which apparently is going to be 10 episodes, rumored at $100 million budget for the season. Just to give you guys a little bit of clarity on that, when Game of Thrones on average is $6 million an episode. So yeah. Possible reboot of the Muppets, which is a shame because I actually kind of enjoyed the last reboot. I liked it. It took a little bit of a dirtier turn, but that might be one of the reasons why something like Happy Time Murders just didn't connect. A remake of Lady and the Tramp, which is coming to the direct. I just don't care about that one. And maybe reboots of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and The Parent Trap. You don't need to touch either of those films. Let them be. I mean, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was a TV series for a while. That was not bad. The Parent Trap, the Lindsay Lohan remake from like the early 2000s or the late 90s was actually pretty good. You can leave those be, okay? But you don't need to touch any of that other stuff here. But this is Disney, and clearly they're always going to be scraping the bottom of the damn barrel. Now, it says here you can find out about other stuff they're working on too. But okay, so how much is it going to cost? Now, Iger confirmed that the price of Disney Play will be less than Netflix's lower subscription tiers, which lands somewhere between $8 and $14. That's mostly because Disney is an exclusive streaming service, and despite the studio's ambitious plans for original content, it will still only be limited to Disney programming for film and television, and likely the library of 20th Century Fox titles as well. While that will include huge franchises like Marvel Cinematic Universe and Star Wars and Pixar, it still won't be as abundant as the offerings from Netflix and Hulu. But okay, hold on. See, I love how they're kind of like deflecting off of the situation, like as if the content on Netflix and Hulu is all of it is grand, right? I mean, like on Hulu especially, I put my shit on hold, man. During the summer, I put my freaking my subscription on hold. There's nothing to watch. Why am I spending the $12 a month when there's nothing to watch? Oh, there's Castle Rock. You can watch Castle Rock. Yeah, maybe, sure. Right? Or Handmaid's Tale. But when I bring it back again, I just marathon those things. You know, it's like nothing about Hulu and the way Hulu operates in regards to its syndicated content. And like, if you miss like an episode, like a few episodes, they cut it off of the service so you can't play catch up. And that to me is just like I won't even watch shows that are like that. If I miss it, if I'm late to the party and they cut off the previous episodes, like they're driving me to piracy to play catch up. And that's not what they should do. And I think it's ridiculous. But when it comes to Hulu as well, given the fact that Disney's going to have controlling stake in Hulu when it finalizes the deal with Fox, that's going to end up allowing them the opportunity to purchase out. I believe it's going to be NBC as well as CW. And if they buy those guys out, then that's where all the 20th Century Fox content's going to go, as well as whatever they put out underneath that banner. And they're going to use Hulu with this built-in 20 million user subscriber base as the port of entry into Disney Play. Kind of similar to how you can use Amazon and you can get access to Showtime and Starz and CBS All Access from within that app. You can get it standalone if you want it, but you can get it from within that app. Those are kind of the deals that they're working on. So you can essentially tell that's where things are going to go. But that being said, you know, they've got an estimate from what I read before, about 32 million monthly users as a way to even like break even on this content. On this whole thing. And the thing is, Disney, they could drop it tomorrow and it would have like 50 million people buy it. I think right off the bat. Anyone with kids is going to be on this like white on rice on a paper plate in a snowstorm. It's just, that's how it's going to happen. But I want to wait and see if Disney actually steps up on this. Anyway, Who is America Season 2? Not happening. I want to jump over to that one real quick. Now, if you haven't seen this show, at first I wasn't a big fan of it. Wasn't a huge fan of it. I thought it's Sacha Baron Cohen, so hit or miss for me. But I will say, though, that the way he approached it later on, and I've seen clips, I need to go back and finish watching the rest of the episodes, has been hysterical for how these people, how these politicians jumped on board of coming on to talk about this. And what he got them to say and what he got them to do. Now, it says that comedian Sacha Baron Cohen has appeared in 2 films in 2016 and then disappeared from screens for 2 years, laying dormant as he planned his next move. He then burst on the scene with Who is America, a surprise Showtime series that became controversial before it even aired its first episode. The first season has come to an end, and Cohen says Who is America Season 2 is not going to happen. And at this point, yeah, I get it. He's not going to be able to bait politicians. He's not going to be able to get them in the same situation. This was very much a one and done, very much a one and done whole project, right? Now, it goes on to say here that Cohen has dominated headlines for weeks in the antics of convincing Republican politicians to support his plan to put guns in the hand of toddlers, to turn them into kindergartens, to giving former Senate candidate Roy Moore, the man accused of having a sexual relationship with a 14-year-old girl when he was 32, a pedophile test, and getting former President Dick Cheney to sign a waterboarding kit. He did. He got all of these people to do this sort of thing. And as a result, I mean, it shows you that how dumb our politicians are. Right. I mean, even going as far as the article goes on to talk about like Sheriff Joe Arpaio and saying he might get a BJ from Trump. But then again, like you could see Sheriff Joe was trying to like understand what he was saying and just kind of went along with it. My favorite, though, was the very first part from episode 1 where he went and talked to Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders didn't buy it. He's like, I don't know what's going on here, but this is not the right thing. Now, this is where it gets to be really funny. And even though I don't put a lot of politics on this channel, I do find this story to be interesting, though. One of the bigger names associated with Who is America is former vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin, who was one of the more outspoken critics of the show before it aired. The reason is she was interviewed by Cohen for the show, but was fooled by his prosthetics. She then took to Facebook to denounce him as a way to get ahead of the story so she could try and gain some semblance of control over the situation. But ultimately, the joke was on Palin. Cohen never even ran the segment that featured her, meaning all she did was generate untold headlines about the show and provide it with all sorts of free publicity. And even going far here at the end, special publicity consultant, inadvertent Sarah Palin. And that is perfect to me. Like the show really encapsulated, I think, a big problem when it comes to our politics and our politicians and those kind of things. So if you were a fan of Who is America, you're not going to get a season 2. But that being said, the president of Showtime has come out and said, hey, man, listen, I love the show. I love Sacha Baron Cohen. We want to work with him. So that's going to be probably something in regards to that. It could be an Ali G remake, which please no. It could be another Borat situation, which, again, that kind of like hit the peak of the cultural zeitgeist 12 years ago. Even though at this point now we can still all go, very nice. How much, and joke about it and whatnot. But it's, he definitely does well when he disappears for a while. People forget about him, and then he comes back, and then he's stronger than ever. So I really want to see what he's going to come up with next, and I look forward to it. Now, let's talk about Oscar Isaac and why Oscar Isaac actually loves the fan backlash against The Last Jedi. Now, The Last Jedi has been a very, very, very large subject of conversation, especially here on YouTube for the past 9 months, if not longer. Let's definitely go back longer than that. But since the movie came out nearly 9 months ago, it's been this huge, insane topic because the movie is so divisive. You have your fans that love it. You have your fans that hate it. And then it's just this weird thing. Now, Oscar Isaac actually spoke up about this in an interview. And it says here, when it comes to the surrounding controversies around Star Wars The Last Jedi, Oscar Isaac's Poe Dameron is a frequent subject of conversation. There's no denying that he makes some questionable moves in the film, and there are some fans out there who are not too happy with them. If you think that upsets Isaac at all, however, you are completely wrong, as the actor has fully embraced the backlash, saying here, I love that. It's incredible because you have people actually engaging with the ethical question of war and what leadership is. The last thing you want for people is to watch the movie and be like, great, and then move on. With The Last Jedi, the conversation continues and can stir real emotions. You're having a conversation about actual things that matter, and I get that. I get what he's trying to say there, but the conversation isn't really about the concept of leadership and war, right? I've debated this movie for months now, And at no point does the conversation of war ever really come up. It really doesn't, because it's called Star Wars. You know what I mean? It's legitimately it's called Star Wars. It's a war in the stars. So it's already part of the title. It's part of the ethos of the entire freaking thing. You know what it is? It's called Star Wars. That's yeah. Anyway, so you've got that. You've got the Star Wars situation. And then you've got the backlash surrounding his actions. Now his actions were in the beginning kind of dumb. They were bullheaded, they were brash, but you understand it, I think, because like he thought he could win. He thought he could take out the Dreadnought. Ultimately he did, but the cost was very high. And that might have been what Rian Johnson was effectively trying to push for, was the idea there that there was, a lot of the cost, the casualty factor of war. And of course, then there was a conversation about like who makes the money and selling to both sides, and obviously there was political motivation on that. I get that. But the conversations about the characters comes up as like Holdo and her not telling him about the base on Crate, her not telling him that they were going to, put everyone on rescue or on skate pods essentially and send them towards the base. Her not telling everyone what the plan was utterly ridiculous. It was utterly ridiculous simply because it made no sense. Now, if they wanted to handle it better, if they wanted it to be a better looked at situation, here's how I would have done it. Okay, for one, I would have cut out Canto Bight completely. I've already talked about that multiple times. Cut out Canto Bight. Put DJ's character, so Benicio del Toro's character, inside of the jail cell because he was caught trying to escape by Rose. She thought he was a deserter. He then overhears their conversation about trying to take down the little tracking device that's on the Dreadnought. He then offers his help. He convinces them. They then go over to the Dreadnought ship. And by the way, this shaves off like a half hour from the movie too, which I think would have been fine. They go over there. He double crosses them because he was the person who was the double agent. He was the person who was the one who had put the tracker on that they were able to track through light speed. That was the reason why he was trying to get out of there and get back to the Dreadnought. So he basically played into their hands. That's the whole point. He could have been working for Phasma or something. It would have given her a surrogate. It would have given her a sidekick. It would have given her more than what we got. And then of course, what you do is you find out later on from Holdo, oh shit, well, we knew we had a spy. We knew that there was a person here. We knew that there was all these things. And unfortunately, we were unable to do anything about it before it was too late, and we were trying to root them out. We were trying to do all this stuff. It just didn't happen. So as a result of that, it just it screws the whole thing up. And then it shows, oh, there's all this oversight that could have happened. There's all these other things that could have happened, and they could have made it any bit better, but they just ultimately didn't. And finally today, guys, so Danny Boyle left the next Bond movie, Daniel Craig's final Bond movie, and we finally are finding out maybe why. It was a big question. It's a creative difference. There's always a lot of creative differences when these things tend to happen. But why? Why did it go down the way that it did? Well, according to this report here, he quit because they were going to kill off James Bond. And Danny Boyle was like, nah, I want nothing to do with that. I'm fine. It's good. I'm good. I'm peace. That's a very weird thing to me, right? Now, it says here that it was originally claimed that Danny Boyle had walked away from the project last over creative differences, and it's now seemingly becoming clearer as to what those differences were. The director allegedly refused to kill James Bond off as he reportedly fought against Daniel Craig and Barbara Broccoli's plans for Bonds to die in a dramatic fashion at the end of the next movie. The death of Bond would leave the franchise open to a Doctor Who regeneration. An insider told The Sun there were discussions about killing off Bond in the dramatic fashion at the end, saying it would also leave it open for a twist in the next installment with either Bond hadn't died or there could be a Doctor Who-esque regeneration with a new actor. Now, the reason why I'm going to call bullshit on that Doctor Who thing, predominantly because we've gone through how many Bonds at this point? Connery, Lazenby, Moore, Dalton, Brosnan, now Craig. That's six actors have played Bond, and no one has ever died. That is the stupidest thing ever. This is Daniel Craig getting what he wants. This is Daniel Craig pulling a Harrison Ford, right? Remember that when Harrison Ford was pushing for all the for what's it called, the Force Awakens press tour? He was all happy, giddy, right? like a pig in shit. Why was that? Oh, has everything to do with the fact that he knew he was gonna die. So that's it. That's what they're saying right now. That's so stupid in my opinion. Now it goes on to say here that there were clashes over budget and there's pandemonium among crew with people leaving the production, left, right, and center. The chaos has reportedly left staff fearing for their jobs. It's now thought the movie's release date will be pushed back to 2020 as bosses scramble to find a new director to take the helm. Originally, the film was slated for release in the UK on October 25th of next year, but according to Variety, the disruption over Danny and the need for a new script could have a knock-on effect. Well, here's the thing. Why would you need a new script? Right? Why would you need a new script if it's, we don't, he's like, Danny here doesn't want Bond to die. Doesn't want him to die. Who cares? Who freaking cares? Get someone else in to come. The words ain't going to change. That is, unless somehow Boyle wasn't attached to the script or something like that. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't get it. Let's see. This will also have an effect on shooting locations. Filming was supposed to begin in December, but to avoid missing the November release date, shooting would need to begin at January 2019 at the latest. News of Boyle's decision was shared on Twitter and the official Bond account. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing, right? That's if it's over killing Bond, I understand. I support it. This is the whole point when it comes to this. Look, I love Daniel Craig as James Bond, and I think the 4 movies that he's done has been very good. I think the 4 movies that he's done has been fine. I think it's okay to recast. I think it's okay to move on to a different actor. Doing one more, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Bringing on Danny Boyle, I kind of figured it was the same reason like bringing on Sam Mendes and shit, was to try to go for more Oscar gold, more awards, make it more of a dramatic movie. And when these movies come out, and keep in mind it was for October, late October, which is around award season, and making a big dramatic fashion, a big dramatic killing off of Bond at the end. They wanted to tug on those heartstrings. They wanted to tug on those nostalgia pop culture heartstrings as a way to get the Academy to possibly vote on making Bond an Oscar caliber film. That's what they wanted to do. And I think I give Boyle credit. He's not to sacrifice the story, not to sacrifice the character, and none of that shit in order to tell the right story, not to just play into the awards game, right? Because fans aren't going to be happy that Bond dies. They're not going to be happy. They're not going to like that. They're like, oh, he dies at the end. What? Or is it going to be treated like the ending of Sherlock Holmes in the Game of Shadows, right? The sequel from 2011. It's been 7 freaking years. But at the end, Sherlock Holmes died at the end. We find out that he's not really dead. And then they're working on a 3rd one finally. So that's probably what they were going to do. It's like, isn't Bond dead? Or at the end of it, it would be like James Bond will return ? Or something along those lines. And it's just so stupid. Bond is an ongoing character. It would be like, look, if they said, look, we're going to kill off Indiana Jones. We're going to kill off Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. And that's going to be it. No one will ever take up the mantle ever again. Then I could get behind it. But Bond has been an ongoing franchise. 25 movies with this one when it comes out over the span of nearly 50 years, if not 50 years. And so I look at it more like the perspective of, well, this is a thing. This is a piece of pop culture, and treating it like this for like, I don't know, effect is just stupid. It's got to mean something, right? It's got to mean something. I just feel at this point they should just pull the plug on it. Recast everybody, recast James Bond, start over again with not like a new story and whatever, but just the next chapter. I don't know. That's how I feel about that, at least. So, all right, guys, that wraps up today's episode of 3 Buck Theater. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys have comments below. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. And I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. My name, of course, is Matt Jarbo. This has been 3 Buck Theater. Have yourself a great day, guys, and peace out.